In the 1800s, enslaved women were categorized as commodities. Terms like fancy girl or bedwarmer were used to describe a system that reduced their bodies to property and their service to a forced, intimate trade. Scholar E. Franklin Frazier mapped the mechanics of this exploitation, from outright violence to the cruel bartering of a woman's flesh for better food or clothing. This was a calculated, structural effort to strip away human agency. Viewing these women as passive victims is a historical inaccuracy. The records they left behind suggest a different reality. Within this environment, a lineage of strategists and inventors emerged. They methodically reclaimed the autonomy that the law attempted to steal. Their stories are characterized by how they weaponized their proximity to power. They reclaimed their minds, bodies, and capital to build the technical and intellectual foundations we rely on today. Phyllis Wheatley was kidnapped from West Africa as a child and sold in Boston. She was stripped of her name and her homeland, placed into a role that assumed she possessed no intellectual capacity. Within 16 months of learning to read, she was mastering Greek, Latin, and neoclassical poetry. She composed verses that challenged the core assumptions of the colonial elite, using the master's own language to assert her humanity. Because her intellect was considered impossible, she was forced to defend it. 18 prominent men, including John Hancock, summoned her to a tribunal to verify her authorship. She convinced them. Her book was published in London in 1773. She was the first published African-American woman in history, achieving global recognition while she was still legally categorized as property. Wheatley used the written word to anchor her intellect in a legal system that tried to define her as a physical object. She proved that the mind remained her own. While Wheatley secured the mind, Rebecca Lee Crumpler targeted the physical domain. In the mid-1800s, Black women were excluded from the medical profession by both custom and law. Crumpler broke that barrier in 1860, entering the New England Female Medical College. In 1864, she graduated as the first African-American female MD in the United States. After the Civil War, she practiced in Richmond, Virginia. She treated thousands of newly freed people, despite constant hostility from white pharmacists and doctors who refused to recognize her expertise. In 1883, she published a book of medical discourses. It became one of the first medical guides written by a Black author, designed to put healthcare knowledge directly into the hands of Black caregivers. Crumpler shifted the Black body out of the jurisdiction of exploitative overseers and into the protective care of a trained physician. True autonomy, however, also required serious economic leverage. Mary Ellen Pleasant arrived in San Francisco during the gold rush, operating on the principle that information was the most valuable form of capital. She took positions as a domestic servant, using her perceived invisibility to eavesdrop on the financial secrets of wealthy white men. She recorded their business plans and used that knowledge to build her own investments. Pleasant amassed an empire worth $30 million in today's currency. She used that wealth to fund the Underground Railroad, finance abolitionist raids, and win civil rights lawsuits in California courts. A century later, in Queens, Mary Van Britton Brown faced a different vulnerability: the immediate need for safety in an urban environment with slow police response times. She designed a motorized camera system that could slide between 4 peepholes in her front door. It allowed her to monitor her perimeter without ever opening the entrance. The feed went directly to a monitor in her bedroom and included a panic button to alert security companies. She took her security out of the hands of the state and into her own. Her 1969 patent is the technical foundation for modern closed-circuit television and video doorbells. Pleasant and Brown both rejected the vulnerability assigned to them. One used the leverage of secret capital, while the other used the leverage of engineering. The fight for bodily control has a darker chapter in the modern era. In 1951, Henrietta Lacks sought medical treatment, only to have her body treated as a scientific resource. During her treatment for cervical cancer, doctors at Johns Hopkins Hospital removed tissue samples without her knowledge or consent. Her cells possessed a trait researchers had never seen. They did not die. They doubled every 24 hours, becoming the first immortal human cell line in history. Known globally as HeLa, these cells became the standard tools of modern medicine. They were used to develop the polio vaccine, map the human genome, and conduct COVID-19 research, generating billions in revenue while her family remained in poverty. Lacks's story serves as a reminder of a systemic history, the involuntary use of the Black female body to advance medical science. The modern world is shaped by these specific acts of reclamation. We use brown security systems, rely on science from Lacks's cells, follow medical paths from Crumpler, and literary paths from Wheatley. These women are defined not by the names given to them by their enslavers, but by the intellectual and physical structures they built. The irony remains. The specific systems designed to exploit them provided the intelligence they used to engineer progress in safety, finance, and medicine. Behind these pillars of history stands a lineage of women who were told they were property and responded with, "Watch me."